Okay, that brings us to Stand Still. This is track 15 and the last song that's on the playlist. This one came in from me and from the band Almost AM. This is a cousin and two brothers that are located in Montana. Let's talk about maybe not your average location. It's a small town called Kalispell, which is near Whitefish in the northwest of Montana. Some people that just want to make music. Their EP is so new, it's not even on their Bandcamp. It was released in late September, but not even on their Bandcamp. It is on their website. It comes from an EP of the same name and only has 3,000 plays. I actually found it through an app that I came across recently called Indie Shuffle. And the Indie Shuffle has been useful to me because I share a Spotify account with my kids and they're often using it when I want to use it. So then I go to a second music platform and stream some things there. And so it was one day where I thought I'm going to go and see what I can find that's new. So I listened to a bunch of songs while I was either taking a walk or driving or doing something. And this one stood out to me, this one with its simple instrumentation and the spacey atmosphere, the piano, the reverb vocals. I mean, it's really, there's so much reverb in it. I think you barely can tell what they're saying. I think one of the lines is stand still while everybody moves, stand still. And I think it's a nice way to bring the playlist to a close, which is that you don't have to do what everybody else is doing. You can choose your own way. You can be your own person. You choose your adventure and you sleep in the bed that you make. Insert colloquialism here. I liked the vibe of the song. I liked that it was real down tempo and felt personal, kind of felt like a love letter to the self. It's okay for you to do it your way. And that ended up speaking to me. I think as I was considering my songs, this was a bit of a late ad for me, meaning I had it down in a lower range of my playlist, thinking that I might not draw on this one. But I was just really inspired by several things, not the least of which was that it was a cousin and two brothers and that they were from Montana. I see in some of the connections, they also mentioned Nashville. So I don't know what the Nashville connection is, but their Bandcamp said Montana. So that's what I went with. But just some simplicity here and some sincerity. So I like that. And then the other thing I find that's curious and a little bit ironic is technically it is not possible to stand still. Like when you're standing, you're constantly moving. Like you're making these little micro movements to actually stand still. So if you tell a 6-year old stand still, they're still moving, even though they're trying to be as still as they can. And so I like this notion of do the thing that's actually not possible to do, or make it look like you're doing the thing that's actually not physically possible to do so that you can find the calm or the space that you need to do it your way. Or stand still while the predator passes by so that you're not visible. There's a lot of ways, I think, to try to hear what they're saying. And I've enjoyed, especially because the words are a bit blurry and woozy, so to speak. I'm not even sure what they all are. And I looked for the lyrics, couldn't find them. There's no lyrics in the visualizer. It felt a little bit murky, and I liked that. So I'm just going to stand still while everybody moves. And someday I'll figure out what the words are in the song.
I agree. I
You
think
go.
it took me a few listens to realize that stand still might be what they're singing. I like when lyrics or the words create their own feeling without maybe the words having to mean something, but also having a chance for them to mean something and pull from it. Very cool that this is super fresh, completely unknown to me. So happy to have been exposed to it. Looking on their website, there's always this aesthetic pleasure of seeing all of their releases in a tile format. Like sometimes Bandcamp is like that. They only show 3 things on Bandcamp, but they have on their website all 8 or so releases that they've got. All really cool visions, as well as seeing them together. I think if I was ever a musician with multiple releases, the feeling of having them be like puzzle pieces that kind of fit, but also are a little bit different, that's just something cool about it. I like that it's a group of 3. Fun to know the connection of cousins, and like that's always exciting for me, but very cool to have it. I also think is a great one to end the playlist for where we're at today. I will say I don't necessarily love the name Almost AM because I am constantly dreading I have to invert that, I think, where, and in fact, I sent you guys a text message yesterday. It was snowing pretty heavily here in the Twin Cities on over the night and then into the commute to work. And that's always tough because I got to shovel the sidewalk knowing it's going to keep snowing. Then I got to slog through traffic to get across town. And it took an hour and a half. A song that we've talked about on this radio show or on the podcast before, War on Drugs. It was a war on drugs morning is what I said, because everybody was stressed for finally trying to get to the end of this year. And I put that on and it helped set the scene. But as I'm done shoveling and getting ready to go out the door, the song Rings Around My Father's Eyes came on, and it brought me to stop and sit down for a little bit. Instead of scurrying out the door, I just stopped, and I didn't stand still, but I sat there, and it just brought me to a place of, I'm going to stop for a minute. I'm going to sit still. And this song kind of reminds me. And as we're getting back into the podcast, I will just add that, like, we paused to figure out what we were going to do next. Now we're doing this because I think we didn't want to stand still anymore. We wanted to jump up and take the next thing because we find value in this connection. We find value in seeing these artists that we don't know anything about, but get to share it. So Almost AM is a great way to capture or encapsulate this new moment for Stone Soup and for our connection as brothers. And it's cool that it's three people creating things in a similar way. So solid ad. Really happy to close out the playlist with that.
Yeah, I'll echo the solid ad. It's a beautiful song. It's lovely to know the history behind it. Also lovely to know your secrets on finding great music. Thanks for that. Yeah, the music video is totally awesome. It opens with the lead singer rising out of the water in reverse motion, and it ends with that as well. I hope nobody minds that there are spoilers here, but the bookends are really cool. I like that effect. Also, it's the second music video that you contributed, Sean, where there are match cuts. Match cuts are where you get a subject to do the same action, but in a different scene, and then you cut those side by side so it looks like the scene is just changing behind them. So a cool editing technique that is showing up in two of the songs that you brought with Shalala and with Stand Still. Love the notions that you're bringing up, Sean, around the impossibility of standing still and how we don't really ever arrive at stillness. That's like it's like a dream state to try to reach for. Whenever people say they're seeking balance, I'm like, we're bipeds. You can't move if you're in balance. Like, you have to go out of balance to take a step forward. That's how we walk. That's how we move. And so the idea of I'm seeking balance is I'm seeking stillness. I'm seeking inaction. I'm seeking impossibility. I'm seeking almost to cease to exist. This whole episode has been like one big existential crisis for me. It feels, and maybe not crisis, because it feels like standing still is exactly what's being asked of me. That is precisely the invitation. And at times it can feel like a command and it can feel like an imposition. And I think that what this song is saying and what you're naming is, yeah, it may feel impossible, but that is exactly the answer here. What was it earlier? It was in Sprinter Brain.
Pressure is the plan. Yeah.
Pressure is the plan. Like, it's almost stand still and be in the pressure of not moving. And that is potent as well. I've never done Qigong more than a couple of times in my life, but it looks like they're doing Qigong or Tai Chi or something in the motions of the movement of standing still. And I think that's also really beautiful. Yeah, great way to end. It does feel like, even though this is the end of the list and we've talked about changes coming and all of this like turmoil and tumult, to end with this reminder to reach for that thing that feels impossible is a really great, poignant way to finish. So nice work on the whole thing.
I think so. That's 15 great tracks. So before we move to close, we'll give you a pause to stand still and check out Almost AM's take on that thought.